Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. And I am really excited to bring this to you today because this is something supposed to come in January, ended up shipping a couple months early. This is the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover Dreadnought Thunder Machine that turns into Soundwave. Now, this is a Amazon exclusive, Hasbro Pulse, stuff like that. Probably get it off a big bad toy store. But like I said, Amazon said it was going to come in January, and it's shipping now. This vehicle does include two figures, Zartan and Zarana. A little odd because the Thunder Machine originally came with the Dreadnought Thrasher. And while I understand Zartan and Zarana coming together because they're brother and sister, I'm a little disappointed that Thrasher was not included. Um, and one thing I want to note right off the bat, unlike the Hiss tank, unlike the Striker, this feels like a G.I. Joe vehicle as I remember it. Now, I never had the Thunder Machine, so I was really excited to get this. But just like, for example, picking it up for the review, it was like I felt like I was picking up an old school G.I. Joe vehicle and not a Transformer. Um, Now, let's go ahead and just pop the figures out. A few things I want to know. First of all, to pop the figures out, you kind of have to open up the top here and be very careful because this roll cage likes to pop off. But one thing that happens is number one, the instructions show the figures being able to fit inside with their backpacks on. That's not true. Uh, Number two, it's actually they show you with the figures the legs bent and what have you. No, you actually have to put them in straight, and I got to tell you, it is a bit of uh, a balancing act. But but what is nice is right here under the roll, there's little clips here on the roll cage to hold their weapons. So you can just pop those off as you see fit. Now, these are the new style retro figures. Apparently, the thumbs won't break, and the O-rings are supposed to be a bit more durable. We'll see. Uh, the last thing I want to mention about getting the figures into the vehicle is you'll notice there's a flap right here. That's actually meant to be for um, Soundwave's robot mode. And in vehicle mode, it's meant to be flipped up. And as you can see, it's a little warped right now. It doesn't peg in right because it's this soft plastic. Well, the only way I was able to get the figures in is if I actually have this folded down. And if you have it folded down, it actually works like, if you, as you can see from here, like a little backwash. So I kind of wonder if that is meant to be folded down in vehicle mode, and it was just a mistake of the instructions. But now that we've gotten the figures out of the way, let me close this back up here. And I was a little proud of myself. That was the first time I was able to open that without it popping off. You might see a little bit of stress and marbling. That is indicative of the old Joe vehicles. They were made from very soft plastic. And you'll notice you have like a little, just like nondescript little panels that flip up, the doors flip up. There's a gimmick here with the chain gun that if you move it back, you pull on the bullet belt, it will actually oscillate back and forth. So that's kind of cool. But you do see the little runners here on the side, so you can pose the figures and uh, peg them on just like you would in the old days. The Thunder Machine was a two-seater, but of course, with these extra runners, you can put on more of the dreadnoughts. So there you go, and just trying to, it's like one of the old things about uh, the GI Joe figures is that the hands really were very rare to hold the weapon straight, especially pistols and stuff. And we'll talk more about the figures in a second, just right here as I get Zartan. And if you notice that panel comes down, that's actually it's meant to fold down for the transformation. So uh, you can leave it out like that or fold it up. But one other thing that this figure set includes, you see the leash here, is we have Ravage. And it's not just any type of Ravage. It is a repaint of the original Masterpiece Ravage done in a blue comic style colors. Uh, so that's very nice. And either figure can hold the leash very nicely. I mean, there's a steering wheel inside the Thunder Machine. I had Zartan holding on to that. So definitely you can do that. So what I think we're going to do now is we'll pause. We'll come back. We'll take a look at the action figures, and then we'll take a look at Ravage, and we'll get into the transformation of the Thunder Machine. Okay. Just for clarification and for ease of just the review, I'm using the base of the Hasbro display stand. Each figure comes individually carded, like on the old school style blister card, and does include one of those basic black stands. I actually have it in the packaging, and I figured it'd just be easier to use this. Full disclosure, though, the pegs on the base are actually a little smaller. So while it is helping the figure stand, they are very loose. Now, as I mentioned, these are the retro style G.I. Joe figures that Hasbro put out about a year, started putting out a year ago. I do believe that line is done, and really going forward, Super 7 is going to be making O-ring style figures uh, in that vintage style. Um, but I do believe Hasbro will continue making uh, the figures to include with these crossover sets because if the rumors are true, these crossover sets are going to continue. Um, you've just and then a few quick observations. For whatever reason, Zartan, I never had a Zorana, but Zartan feels a little smaller than I remember. That could just be me. Also, the color change gimmick is gone, but in its place, as you can see, you have a much more natural looking flesh color. Um, Very nice figure. Originally, the character came with the swamp skiff. A little disappointed that it wasn't included here, but I can kind of understand why. Um, well, couldn't be included here, but I kind of understand why they couldn't do it with Zartan. Although, they were selling the retro figures at 2 packs, so if they did it as a deluxe release at the same price point, that could have worked. But funny thing, for all the years of watching the cartoon and even having the figure, here this is clearly Zartan's uh, hood. In the cartoon, I always thought he had hair. That was his hair. Well, it's a hood. Zartan is either bald or um, has a mohawk, depending on the release of the figure. I want to say that this isn't also how the original Zartan looked. I know there were some hologram stickers for the chest, but the body armor looked a little different. Like this is more of an amalgamation of the original figure and the animation design. The pistol is pretty much exact to what Zartan used, and that was like the standard Cobra pistol of the day. And of course, the backpack opens. You might have saw it in the beginning, and he does have the mask. So, never found out who the mask was supposed to be based on, but it does just slide in here under the hood over Zartan's face. Position it right, and there you have Zartan wearing a mask. This is supposed to be him in disguise, and yeah, that would work, except for the fact that he's wearing body armor and stuff like that. But easy on, easy off. I do remember this fitting into the backpack a little bit better. And in fact, and again, I could be wrong, But I want to say that the mask part of the backpack was actually what pegged into the back, and that the flap was just different because this is kind of tricky to position and what have you, and really doesn't stay in place. Now, for the articulation, same on both. Universal joint in the shoulder, bicep swivel, single joint at the elbow. You have a full range of waist articulation that's due to the O-ring. You have full you have forward and back at the hips. Should have a little bit out to the side, but that's blocked because of the cut of the back there on the waist joint, and a single jointed knee. That was standard articulation for GI Joes back in the day, and that was groundbreaking, seeing as how in America most kids only had the Star Wars figures that were 5 points of articulation. Zorana, this is my first time experiencing a vintage style Zorana. The only other Zorana which I've ever had was the San Diego Comic Con exclusive. And actually, I've reviewed the figure and its variant, which was basically like a cold slither groupie. Um, Very nice looking. Obviously, the head is and the face is a little bit different from what it looked like in the cartoon. There were many O-ring versions of Zorana over the years, but really after that San Diego Comic Con release, the most recent one I think was the classified edition, which you can find along with Dusty at either Ross or Ollie's for like $5, which is kind of disappointing. But the torn belly shirt is there, the fishnet gloves, uh, digging the backpack, and of course the weapon is incredibly iconic to Zorana. It's some sort of bladed saw thing, maybe a weed whacker. Um, in the cartoon, it shot lasers. That was the funny thing in the cartoon. The Joes all used um, the standard XMLR laser rifle, but for Cobra, the troopers had that Cobra rifle. The Crimson Guard had their AR-15s with the bayonets. But like when you had a character like Zorana with a specialized weapon, you would see them occasionally using it shooting lasers. And of course, there's no barrel here to shoot lasers, but kind of fun, kind of cool. It's nice to see her with her brother Zartan. But like I would have said, I would have understood not getting Zorana if it meant we got Thrasher. Or, I would have like maybe Thrasher and I mean, really the best option for me would have been Thrasher and Road Pig. And then maybe do a set of the Dreadnoks down the line. But again, seeing as how the line is done, I can understand why they didn't go that route. So fun figures. I'm glad to have them. Really got me in the feels, you know, posing them and working with them. Unlike, say, the Baroness or Sergeant Stalker, I wasn't trying to bend the ankles when there weren't any, so I'm a little used to this retro design. But yeah, let's pause real quick and take a look at Ravage. You guys might want to check out my Instagram because when this review goes up, be posting some photos of the set, and you just might want to keep an eye out for that group shot with Zartan Zorana and the Thunder Machine and holding Ravage because Ravage might be doing something. But this is Ravage. The harness, the leash here, I believe, is re-released from a San Diego Comic Con set where you got a static figurine of Ravage for the Baroness to hold. But very soft, very pliable. As you saw, the figures could hold it. Easy for the figure to get in and out of. So no complaints there. Um, with Ravage, this is, if you remember our review of the Masterpiece Soundwave Hasbro set, you pretty much know what to expect. The fact that this is the Masterpiece figure and fits in the chest of Soundwave, that means the other Masterpiece cassettes will fit with this set. The original G1 cassettes will fit. And I believe the Siege and the Studio Series 86 cassettes will fit. So yeah, you have a lot of options. And as I said, I'm pretty sure this blue is from the comics. Might be one of the more recent GI Joe Transformer comics, but very nice. And if you remember overall, looking back at those masterpiece cassettes, the animals worked out a little bit better than, say, Rumble and Frenzy, just because, as you can see, the weapons were able to be stored and integrated in. So to get into the transformation, first thing you want to do is uh, rotate, pause here at the front, get them up like that. Did I do that right? Not sure if I did that right. It goes back like that, and yes, I do believe so. And then rotate them up at the hip there so that the Decepticon logos face inward. Straighten the legs out here. Do that, do that. Uh, Straighten the body out. Notch down like that. Head up like that. Split the back open carefully, uh, and then you can bring up these side panels here. Uh, the paws will tuck in underneath the back here, just like so. And there are the tabs on the hips there will go into the slots in the shoulder, just like so. Little fidgety. Fold up the tail. Bring the bring ravages. Oh no, I did not do this right. Oopsie. Uh, okay. You want that tab right here facing forward. So rotate that around, keeping the shoulder back. And the reason you want it like that is because there's a post here on the front leg that's going to peg into the back leg. Just fold the paw up like so. And do it again on this side. Sorry for the mistake. You sometimes tend to forget, with how these cassettes are supposed to go, because you want to get them flat, but there is a certain way of doing it. Split the head open. That will just fold up like that. And then there's that little bit of the snout. And there you go. You're in cassette mode. And once we get Soundwave into its robot mode, I'll show you how this fits in the chest. I'm sure you can kind of figure it out since it is Soundwave. So let's pause and get into that transformation. Okay, I do apologize for zooming out and exposing the sides here. I like to keep things a little more centered, but I do need the space to show all the steps of the transformation. Believe it or not, this is actually a fun transformation. Uh, it's not that fiddly. Yes, there is some parts forming to it, but unlike, say, Megatron, who's the Hiss tank, if you miss some of the parts, it's not like you're going to have like a gaping vehicle mode or miss some aspect of the robot. First thing you want to do is come in the front here and remove this front grille. Now, I do also want to mention part of the price of this set, I believe, is because this is licensed by GM. And the reason it's licensed by GM is that if you look up the schematics of the Thunder Machine, part of a Trans Am was used to design the vehicle. So sure enough, right there where my finger is the Pontiac logo. For that one little logo, the cost of the set really went up. So there is that. Next thing you want to do is remove the Gatling guns here. They do peg in very tightly, very snugly, but just pull them out just like that and put it off to the side right now. Next, you want to come around to the back here and you want to unsnap the blue tow hook right there. Yes, there's a tow hook. That's really cool. And then remove the this booster part, pegs in here, and then there's two notches on the side. And basically what you want to do now is fold up the tow hook section and rotate uh, that thruster up so it's flush with the cannon. So basically, if you lose any of those parts, this is what you're going to have. Should also mention the antenna here is separate and removable. The knife, which is a weapon for Soundwave, is obviously removable. The instructions show how to install the light bar, but on my figure, that came attached, so just keep that in mind. Um, So the next step you want to do is fold up the driver's side mirror and then fold up the runners here on the side. Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing is open up the side doors or the flaps here and unpeg the roll cage like we did when we were removing the figures. And if you haven't, go ahead and fold up that panel. Now, I will admit, because this doesn't lock into place and it flops around, it can make the transformation annoying, but not difficult. And let me tell you, there's going to be some cool stuff we're going to see right now with the legs, but this also gives you an idea of like the opening of the inside of the cabin. So you see how the legs have to sit flush forward, and there's no way they would fit with their backpack. So unpeg this panel here. Go ahead and separate the legs here. Flip up what will be the kneecaps, very important. Lift up the seats and just a little wiggle jiggle because we're going to start separating things. The seats kind of like peg in, they kind of don't. It's just one of those things. But once you get them done, that the seats are loosened, you can lift up the legs. Now, you would think that the legs would just fold back, but no. What you're actually going to do now is fold them out at the knee joint, and they'll snap into place right there. Somebody went like must have been really a fan of the Thunder Machine because this is a very clean transformation to give you a good solid vehicle mode. And I'm really impressed by it. Uh, Fold down that panel right there just to get it out of the way. And then what you want to do is rotate the leg so the the hip joint is right there, and then continue to rotate above the knee to bring the feet down and forward. So now the wheels are facing you. The next step is you want to collapse the hip joint. So it's going to that gray part is going to fold up and in, snap into place, and then you bring it down. Oop. And just be careful with the what the hip skirts here. They are. I mean, you might have stuff pop off. It happens. Just trying to get it back up in here. I've had it pop off a few times. Make sure I'm just doing it. Oh, probably come in from there. We go. So just like that, snaps back in. Get that up. Snap it into place. You can close up the legs. Next, just to turn the legs around, you'll see there's a notch there on the foot. You kind of want to like push the feet up and in and angle it so those notches catch on to the inside of the vehicle. You do lose ankle articulation, but I do think it does help with a much more stable foot. Next step, you want to come up here and you want to fold in just this section of the side panel. Now, very important. If it looks like that, you have it wrong. The left side comes in first, and then the right side comes in top of it, and it sits flush. At this point, you can bring down the roll cage uh, and close the doors. And I need to bring the camera up to show you more of the transformation. So there you have the roll cage. Uh, Next, what you want to do, split the front of the vehicle, and you want to, it's going to double accordion outward here on these blue hinges. Just as an aside, when going into vehicle mode, if you notice the front end is not sitting flush, you might just have to wiggle jiggle because he's tabbing here and in the front here. Um, there's supposed to be like a spring suspension based on the oh, I just popped this off. The spring suspension from like a stun or a his tank. So maybe that's a little homage to it. I don't know. But you're going to bring these down and you'll see these red tabs are going to snap into the side there. And give them a good push so they go in. There we go. Remember, there is a double hinge there, so it does have to fit. Uh, you want to rotate here at the bicep, bring the front of the vehicle up around the forearm, push the fists in to rotate them out. They'll snap into place. Bring the arm down. Same thing here. Just bring it up and around. Rotate that back. Bring the fist out. Bring the arm down. And then, really nice touch. There's a tab here just to flip up the head. I appreciate that. That's like the kind of little touch right there that helps with the transformation and makes it a little easy. So come in, split the front grille. There are the tabs here. Will go into the holes there right above the foot. So that's like a little extra decoration for Soundwave. And they are supposed to roll off to the side. And of course, trying to get them in now is like a little tricky, but there you go. So there's that. And now that this is basically how Soundwave is supposed to look. Now there are a couple gimmicks in robot mode that you can do. First example, I'm going to take the cannon here. We'll peg into the shoulder just like that. There's a gap that the tow hook will peg into. Next, what you want to do is take the Gatling gun and you want to use the inside peg that will just peg in right there in that shoulder. Of course, press the button here. Door opens up. Here comes Ravage. So you have that. But now if we come around the back, and if you remember that little flap I mentioned, that's the that actually has foot pegs on it, and the figures are meant to actually sit and man the weapons. So here comes Zartan. Just bring him in like this, and I'm not going to be able to. I mean, if I sit here and play with it, I can peg him in, but you can see how it's supposed to go. This is very like unobtrusive, unlike the Hiss tank with Baroness, you know. And unfortunately, there's not like handles or anything for the figures to hold on to. I mean, like I said, if I wasn't on camera, I'd be able to just go in there and like peg them down. But you get the point. I mean, obviously, if I peg them into place, they wouldn't fall out. But I don't really think that's how I would display them like that. Just because you really can't see them. At least with the his tank and the Baroness, it was a very nice, like a command position. And that's something else to mention. I really have never known Zartan and Zorana to have a history with the Thunder Machine. The Baroness was known to be a tank commander in Cobra, so that kind of explains why it works. So you can do that, or what I think most of us are going to do, remove the Gatling gun. It'll peg here into the hand using the outside peg, using that peg there, and just there's a handgun for Soundwave. And if you want, go ahead, come down to the side here, pop out the knife. Soundwave, shanks the fools. If there's one complaint I have is that on the box it does show Soundwave's wrist rotating. It can't do that here. Oh, and you got some nice little blue detailing there in the front. Um, the fists don't rotate, so you're just like that. But in terms of articulation, we did see the front skirting here, so the legs are on ratchets, forward and back, nothing out to the side. You have a swivel. You have that nice deep knee bend. I would say the back really doesn't get in the way. I mean, it gets in the way when you're trying to bend it, and that's your own hand's fault. You have the shoulders here, your articulation, the swivel. You have a bicep swivel, only a single jointed elbow, but hey, that I'm okay with that just for the sake of the transformation. And of course, unfortunately, no waist swivel. But again, I'm okay with that. This is by far the best GI Joe crossover they've done. 100%, no arguments. Obviously, somebody was in love with the Thunder Machine growing up because there was an attention to detail here that I just didn't see with any of the other vehicles. I mean, this is cool. And also, by the way, if you were wondering why Soundwave was included with the Thunder Machine, again, looking up the schematics of the Thunder Machine, you'll notice that it actually has a wide communications array. So it's an offensive machine, but it has heavy communication abilities. So there you go. That kind of fits with Soundwave. Um, yeah, there's really nothing much more to say about it. So I think we'll pause and we'll come back with my final thoughts. In or out, Ravage, in or out. At the end of the day, he could be a hunter, he could be an information gatherer, but Ravage is a cat, and sometimes cats are just a pain. I really dig this figure. Like I said, I think this is the best of the crossovers they've done. It's the one that feels the most like a GI Joe vehicle, and then feels the most like a Transformer. I think the fact that the Thunder Machine, it was primarily blue, helps the fact that Soundwave was primarily blue. But once you look into the Thunder Machine, it it makes sense that how it fits as a character. I mean, how the two fit together. Um, I'm really happy with it, and I do recommend it. Now, here's the catch. I had noticed that because this came in early, I had to wait a couple days to pay it off. And in that time, I noticed that it sold out very quickly, sold by Amazon. I did not. I'm pretty sure it's still sold out by Amazon. So I don't know if they're getting any more stock because don't forget one thing that Hasbro has started doing is lowering production runs, so there's a less figures end up on clearance. So if you hadn't pre-ordered this, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to get it because the other flip of the coin is the first two GI Joe crossovers are still in stock on Amazon, and right now for Black Friday are heavily discounted, well under the cost, their primary cost. So that does explain that they were sitting around. So if you were thinking about sitting around and waiting for the Thunder Machine to go on clearance, I don't know if that's going to happen. Um, Again, fun figure, really glad to have it. Yes, that licensing just for that Pontiac logo did, I think, art exorbitantly push the price up to a point where it might be a little high for some. This is the most expensive of the GI Joe crossovers thus far. I also want to say this might be the biggest, just in terms of length. I know the his tank was a little bit is taller than this, but you do get two figures, two Transformers if you include Ravage, and all the accessories to go with therein. So if the it's up to you to really decide if the value's there. I mean, I didn't pay. I mean, I had some gift cards, so I dropped the price to around 80, and at $80, I'm okay with this. Because don't forget, you have all that tampo detailing too that could, on the original toy was stickers. And that reminds me, if you're a G.I. Joe fan and you are looking to get a Thunder Machine, you might want to look into this because as a standalone vehicle, I think it works very well. It does everything it should. And and at least the last time I checked, it's cheaper than what a vintage Thunder Machine goes for new in box. By the way, the 1986, the Thunder Machine went for $6.62. Let's let that sink in for a moment, that a vehicle the size of the Thunder Machine went for under $10. That's how things were back then. Oh boy. Well, regardless, this is great. As a Transformer, it's fun. As a G.I. Joe vehicle, it's really fun. So again, I'll say it. This is the best crossover. And I guess that's about all I can say. So, if you like this review, please consider like, commenting, and subscribing. While I'll always appreciate the views, the likes, comments, and subscriptions will help to communicate to YouTube through their algorithms that my channel should be exalted and held upon high. If you want to make the ultimate sign of support, I do have a Patreon. It is www.patreon.com/chuckdog1999. All I ask for is $1 a month or $12 a year. No thrills, no tears, no special rewards. All you're doing is helping me help you to help me help you bring figures like this to you, as well as keeping up the infrastructure of the channel. But as I always say, if you can't afford the $1 a month, $12 a year, your views are more than thanks enough. Patreon is just cherry on top of an already generous Sunday. So that's about it. Uh, as I always say, I do appreciate you guys taking the time out. This will be going up the day before Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving. I'm not sure if I'll have something up on Thursday, probably not, but I'll have something up on Friday, I hope. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your families. And then, we'll be starting to slide into the holiday season. So we all know what that means. It'll be the end of the year sooner than we think. So, once again, this is your old pal Chuck for Thunder Machine Soundwave. We will see you next time.